Game portals are hubs around the internet that have a ton of gamers just waiting to play your game. But picking the right one for your game, or even posting on multiple portals, can be a process that leaves you second guessing everything. In this video, we're going to talk about how to use specific portals to get the most out of your game and make sure it gets seen by the maximum amount of people possible. So first things first, let's talk about etiquette on game portals. So game portals are pretty open and accepting when it comes to games. Most of them are geared around actually playing games though, so be careful if you're posting things that are incomplete or broken. Always check the submission rules and make sure you're not stepping on any toes. And this goes without saying, but please never steal assets or others' work and publish on a portal like this. That's a good way to go down real quick. You also need to keep in mind that each portal has its own type of audience, so the things that you post and the things that you say and the way that you write your description for your game might vary from place to place depending on the audience. So number 2, what are the best days and times to actually bring your game live on some of these portals? Well, when you're launching a game, it's a little bit different than something like posting a social media post. Game portals, especially the web portals, have higher traffic during lunch hours and during the evenings, but that doesn't mean that that's when you put your game launch, because that's not how things work. Your particular factors are more important than waiting for arbitrary times. But with that said, there are some things to take into account. For example, a lot of the blockbuster games come out from September to November. So if you're planning a game launch in that window, you're going to be fighting for other people's money. One of the best times during the year to actually launch your game is mid-July to early August. It's not quite September with all the game launches, but at the same time, a lot of people are out for the summer if they go to college or they go to school, so they have a lot of free time. But you also have to take into account the type of game that you're releasing. For example, if you have a web game or an HTML5 game, the actual portal that you choose and the time of day that you put it up might be more important than the actual month. The people that play web games are a lot different than the people that play PC games, most of the time. One final thing to note here is that a lot of modern game portals have algorithms to promote your game based on how popular it is. It sounds weird, but if your game does well in the first hour or day it's live, the portals are much more likely to promote your game because that means a bigger cut or more ad revenue for them. So keep that in mind and gear up your launch to get a lot of traffic really quick when you go live. And that leads us to number 3, you have to figure out where you belong. So just like most other places on the internet, you should always do a little bit of digging and a bit of research from whatever game portal you're thinking of putting your game on. A lot of game portals out there are web or HTML5 only and don't accept all types of games. That's important right out of the gate. But in addition to that, different portals have different demographics. For example, Steam has an older demographic with more money to spend. Congregate is mostly free games. On average, iOS game players buy more premium games and spend more money, whereas Android games work much better with ads. There's a lot of things to take into account. There's a link in the description with the top portals in the gaming world, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. You have to choose the right portal for your game, and no one can really tell you which one that is. So number 4, you have to understand who and what you're writing for. What the hell does that mean? Well, you have to understand who is going to be looking at your game and why. Understanding the discovery process of how someone would find your game is important. For example, if someone searches hard platformers in Steam search, does your game show up? If it does, is what you wrote compelling to that person? Remember, when people search in portals, they don't search your game name. They search contextually for the things that they want to play. So they're much more likely to actually search the genre of what they're looking for versus the name of your game or anything specific to your game. So the things that you write in your description have to be relevant to the things that they search for. I know this doesn't fit the natural definition of SEO, but technically this is kind of like search engine optimization. You have to know what keywords people use to find you and optimize for them, but also optimize for your target market. Don't just write a random description and be done with it. Write things that are compelling to the specific people that are interested in your game. So number 5, what should you actually post there? Well, in addition to a really descriptive and search-friendly paragraph about your game, you're also going to want a few other things to catch your players' attention. Specifically, there are 3 things you need. First, you're going to need a good trailer. If you're not a video guy, this can be scary, but don't overthink it. Keep it short, show off some of the coolest gameplay, maybe tell a bit of the story in text or a voiceover, and then put a call to action at the end, something like, buy now. Secondly, you need some compelling screenshots. They need to show off the coolest parts of your game, and remember that you can add cool graphics or text on them to explain how awesome that shot is or illustrate a feature of your game. And lastly, you need a link where people can go if they need help. This is a huge mistake I see developers make all the time. They don't provide a link to their email or support page, and when someone has a problem with their game, the only thing left for the player to do is leave a bad review. Don't let that happen to you. So number 6, please be sure to set your expectations properly. So if you're watching this video and you're interested in marketing, you likely don't buy into the idea that if you publish, magically you'll get millions of downloads overnight and all your problems will get solved. But a lot of indies still believe this. They think that if they can just get on Steam and publish, they'll get all the downloads and customers they'll ever need. That's just not true. Don't expect to publish on a game portal and get lots of players immediately. Setting expectations is really important because the last thing we need is another indie developer quitting because they expected to be the next Notch. That doesn't happen overnight and it's really hard to do. So if you expect very few handouts from the portals themselves and take on the marketing on your own shoulders, you can control your destiny better. And that way, you won't have inaccurate expectations and quit because you're upset. I know what that's like. So that's it for this video on indie game marketing with Game Portals 101. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, you can tweet me at Tim Ruswick and I'd be happy to answer them.